Hi, Jen.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to Behind the Scenes. We have a lean team today, lean and mighty machine, something like that. There's some phrase. Anyway, I am aware that I never quite get any of those cliches totally right. There's always a word wrong. Like in my newsletter yesterday, which Eka pointed out, I have a new phrase that apparently is not typically used. What was it, Eka?
Set support.
So now we have a new phrase, set support, just so you know. Today we are here to talk to you, kind of that end of the year. Thank you, whoever liked my phrase, set support. You can quote me. At the end, it's the end of the year. We like to look back and reflect on what are the things that moved us and touched us. And, it is really hard to distill this down because I'm changed by so many of the articles we put out there. And that's been true for 14 years of like really feeling like I'm a better parent and maybe better in relationships in general because of a lot of the advice that we put out there. So I have two. I'm going to start out with all-time favorite, Mindy Gallagher's article. Oh, and we don't have Jessica here to put it up there. Can anyone find that article? The theme of it is that Mindy just has a gut feeling that her kid, somehow she's sitting there comfortably on the couch in pajamas. And I could let her tell you, but I'm going to tell you because I picked it. So I just, picture this like totally relaxed mom on the couch. Her kid is out at a party. Her husband's not home. And all of a sudden, she remembers that a mom said she was going out of town. And it just gives that mom gut instinct of like, and so she goes and in her pajamas. I mean, it's the best. If you have never read it, you've got to read it now. And someone was kind enough to put it up there. And then Ryan came back with a counter to that, another article where he tells us how that felt for him. Anyway, totally one of my favorites. Still makes me laugh so hard when I think about that visual. And that kid coming out. Has something to add here.
I want to add something. You forgot an important part of the story was that Mindy was not only on the couch chilling, but I think if I remember correctly, you were eating ice cream, right, Mindy?
Yeah.
That's an important part of the story because you are
so right. How could I forget?
My pajamas? Yeah.
Right. I mean, there is no more chilling and relaxing that on the couch pajamas and ice cream.
Okay, what flavor? What flavor?
Oh, vanilla. I think it was definitely a vanilla and caramel, that Haagen-Dazs, vanilla, dulce de leche. I was just in heaven until, as I call it, the mom tuition, that gut feeling of, wait a minute. So anyway, yeah.
Well, thank you, Mindy, for the continued entertainment and enjoyment. and I take my hat off to you for that really unusual parenting moment, yet very, very effective.
Thank you.
Okay, then I have one more, which I want to say. It was an ask the expert question of why does my teen hate me, and I remember reading it, thinking, and have since been told by my therapist that I should also do this. And one of the answers, I think it was Greenberg, Dr. Greenberg, and she said, lower your expectations. And that has been a struggle for me my whole life as a parent. And I can tell you, it really is effective. It's much harder to put, to get hurt by things your kids do. And also to expect too much from them is wrong. To expect them to care about us the way we care about them. Oh, look, we can ask a kid. They just went behind Mindy. Anyway, those are my two. And now I give it to Mindy to respond.
Actually, that's the kid you were just talking about in the article. Look at the handsome young man he has grown up to be. Actually has a job, graduated college. There you go. And he won't say hello. Now he's leaving. Okay, my favorite one of my favorite articles, because we didn't have many like them, is Fun First. My son became the Little League coach he never had. And because in the spring as a side job, I also am an assistant coach, assistant to high school girls lacrosse. And having 3 boys who are athletes all the way through college, I just know the impact a coach can have on a kid, good and bad, really positive, really negative. And So because I am in that field also, it really hit me the importance of what I do every day as a coach, how I treat our girls, what we do. And for me, I hope coaches, I just remember posting an article and hoping that coaches read this article from Little League, because I know my sons had both the good and the bad, especially the younger, when it's the dads who it's kind of their agenda, how the team does, and the negativity and the negative impact that had on one of my boys. So that was a unique kind of post for us, and very, very important, I thought. So that was absolutely one of my favorite articles. And I hope every coach out there, or if you know a coach, especially with younger kids, send it to them, because I thought it was a great, great article. I will pass it to Sharon.
Good morning, everybody. We all love those articles that talk about personal experience, like Mindy's too. I love both, getting the advice and the first person articles. But one of my favorites, I was just reminded of this because it was in our newsletter yesterday, which we can share a link to sign up for that if you're not already. But it's a Christmas article by Bonnie Jean Feldkamp. It's called When Christmas Got Quiet. And she writes about having older kids, and all of a sudden there's nobody jumping on the bed to wake you up in the morning, and you can get your coffee, and it's kind of weird, and it's just very heartfelt and sweet. And I love that one. And I think that if a lot of us are entering or at that stage in life, and I think we'll find, some tugging at the heartstrings there.
I want to ask a quick question. What is the latest anybody here has waited for their kids? If you celebrate Christmas, we're talking about this one. The latest you have waited for your kids to finally emerge from their bedroom so you could shower them with all the presents that you dutifully purchased.
We have a 9 o'clock. We have a 9 a.m. rule. You have to be up by 9 a.m.
I think one year it was 1 p.m. for us. We're like, I'm just going to get them. Yeah, it was late. It was really late. Like, the day is gone.
It's so funny because you go from you cannot get up before X. At least we used to have a 7 a.m. rule, which, that is not very stringent. And then all of a sudden it's you must get up by X. I think we're not quite there yet with the sleeping in. 1 p.m. is crazy.
Way too late. Yeah. I would have woken them up by then, for sure. But can I say, along with that article, I know my boys, the whole Santa and believing, they will say how much more fun Christmas was when they were younger, right? That they can't sleep and the getting up early. So I don't think it's just the parents that are like, oh, this is kind of weird. I think as our kids get older, I could be wrong, but at least in my family, it's weird. It's different for them too. The magic somehow is not nearly what it was. So anyway, sorry to interrupt. Go ahead, Sharon.
I'm going to pass it on. I'll pass it down to you, Jen.
Okay. There's one that I really like because the headline just immediately alleviated some mom guilt that I had. And it was something like, I don't track my kids and I'm okay with that. And I felt like, yeah, just because you have the technology or the ability to do something doesn't mean you must use it. And I am not by any means judging or saying you shouldn't. If you're the mom or the parent who likes that you have that ability and it works in your family, there are many good reasons to use it. And I'm not saying I don't ever do it, but I don't regularly use any tracking to find out where my kids are, because my husband and I are really different on this. He's like a German Shepherd. He wants to know where everybody is all the time so he can try to keep us safe and maybe even troubleshoot for us. And there were times when that really worked for us. Like one time I took the kids downtown to see the Cavs parade when the Cavaliers won the championship. And then it was 1 million people mobbed our tiny downtown. Cell service went out. There was no way to be able to get an Uber. And he intuited all this and was able to get enough texting through to us that he found a way to pick us up and be our Uber. And he saved the day. So I can't say it never works. But for me, so many times ignorance is bliss. I'd rather know, like, tell me when you got there, not that you are still getting there. I'm happy to know that it all worked out. My kids are on the older side now too, so that's more appropriate perhaps. But if I can see every step of their journey, it just makes me so anxious because I'm like, why are they still there? They should have moved on by now. And then maybe the app isn't up to date and I don't know. And it's like, the more information I have, the more I feel I have to do something about it. Whereas if I can live in a little bit of ignorant bliss and be told later, yeah, I did have a little problem, but I solved it and I figured it out, I'm so much happier to know after the fact. So I was really happy to know that didn't make me a bad mom. So I enjoyed that article immensely. Anybody feel differently about that? Feel free to tell me.
I'm holding off as long as possible. I'm not tracking anybody yet, but I also don't have a full-fledged independent driver either. So I make no promises.
Yeah, I know. That is a game changer. I mean, you do, but and so like my husband will say to me, did so-and-so, did they get where they're going yet? I'm like, you have this technology too. You can use it if you want to know. I want to live in a little bit of ignorant bliss for just a few minutes longer before I go and check. So it's a tricky thing. It's this Pandora's box. And once you have that ability, you have to kind of navigate and discuss how you're going to use it. And your kids also. And I will give you one little example of how it kind of backfired a little bit for me. We were out of town and I couldn't get a hold of one of my kids, and I wasn't worried about it, but my husband was. He was like, why aren't they answering? Why aren't they responding? So I said, fine, I will look. And she was at the police station. So all of our worst parenting fears confirmed immediately. Something terrible had happened, until I took a breath and thought a little bit more and zoomed in and realized she was actually at the grocery store, which is right next to the police station. And she actually called me from the grocery store and said, hey, should I pick up some extra milk? So it's a double-edged sword. That's all I'm going to say. Technology can be your friend, but it's also the devil.
So my son, my youngest, for some reason, put it on Dan's phone in reverse and would text him, hey, while you're at whatever, could you pick me up this? And it drove Dan insane. It made him so mad. He's like, take me off.
Yeah, it can cut both ways. That's for sure. That's all I had to say about that. So I will pass it over to Eka.
Thanks, Jen. You know, in that same vein, we had it on for our kids when they were in high school, and then we left it on just because it was still on. And our daughter came home one holiday or spring break, whatever, and she was driving back to school from Cleveland, and she was going to school in Rhode Island. And she and my husband sat down and mapped out her route because he didn't really want her driving by herself. And plus, she left at like 3:00 in the afternoon, to drive to Rhode Island. So now he's watching her. And he sees that she takes like this wrong exit, and she's heading into New York City. She's going to New York City. She didn't follow what he had planned, and it's 10:30 at night, and it's and he doesn't want to drive. And now she's driving. What? She's driving on like some highway, and well, it turns out that she had talked to one of her friends from college, and she was picking him up in the city. But she wasn't going to tell her dad that she was going to be driving through New York City at 11:00 at night. So that was a backfire. I mean, she was
caught.
But when she was confident enough to drive into New York, I personally wouldn't. But she was like, "I'm doing this." So so that backfired. But anyway, my favorite article is I don't know how you guys feel. I personally think that after years of working here and raising two girls and, reading and all this, that I basically know like everything there is to know about parenting. I am the go-to expert because
totally. Got it all nailed.
Nailed. I got it. I got this. I got that. I got it. Come to me. I know. Well, I don't. So I think what was humbling about my knowledge and also frightening was Kamira's article about getting an attorney for her 16-year-old son, because I guess once you're 16, you're not allowed to call your parents, and the fact that he's also a Black boy, and how that's one of the things that Black parents do for their children is they get them attorneys, so that they have somebody kind of on retainer and they have their card with them. And that was an eye-opening story for me because I didn't know that was something. And also it was heartbreaking to think that that's something you have to think about with your child. And that article really hit home with me this year, knowing that I don't live in that world at all and how it must feel to live in that world and have a son. So I don't know if anybody else has read it. We've all read it, and I think we're moved by it. But that's going to be probably my top article for the year. And I hate to be on a heavy note, but I think it's reality for parents. And I wanted to acknowledge that. So, oh, and somebody put it up. Thank you for putting that up. So that's where I am. And if anybody has anything else, Sue, do you want to wrap us up?
Sure. Anyone have anything? Did this spark anybody's memory? And if somebody who's watching right now wants to put anything in the chat, we'd love that. I think, to be surprised after 14 years is really, sometimes it's a bad surprise. Like we wish we didn't have to have that, but to be surprised is a little bit of a gift. It happens a lot still. And there's just always something new to learn and something to open our eyes to injustices in the world. So thank you all for being here with us. Happy holidays if you're celebrating next week. And we will see you in 2022. And hopefully we'll remember to say that. It's always so hard to remember the new year. Take care, everybody. Happy holidays.